You've seen the title, you've seen the thumbnail, you've seen the screen right now. You know exactly what is going on in today's Football Manager 2020 experiment. We are making South Africa the best international football team in the world. Hello and welcome back to the TomFM channel. Hope you're all doing well today and you're looking forward to an experiment which is long overdue. It's been a long time since we've last done some experiments, so time to get back on the experiment hype train and get doing a few more of them. Before we get any further in today's video, would massively appreciate it if you could drop a like on today's video for me to help other people find it. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. We're close to 15,000 subscribers now, so I'd love to get there very soon. Anyway, I can hear you all asking, Tom, how on earth are you planning to make South Africa the best team in the world? And the answer to that is by tweaking a few things using the in-game editor. Now, all the changes that I'm going to be making in the in-game editor can be done for free using the pre-game editor, which is a downloadable extension on the Steam Workshop. However, just for the sake of the video and making it look a bit nicer, and also for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to be using the in-game editor, which you have to buy from Steam. So if you've got the in-game editor and you've enabled it in your save file, you can see this little pencil icon up here. You click it and edit nation details. And there's a few things that I've changed. First and foremost, state of development. Now, different countries have different states. In Football Manager, they are classed as a third world state, a developing state, or a developed state. Now, we've changed South Africa from a developing state into a developed state, and this essentially just affects finances. If you're a developed state, it usually means that there's more money going around to pay for football and things like that, in terms of sponsorship, in terms of wages, in terms of investments, everything like that. A developed state usually has more money than a developing state or a third world state. So we changed South Africa from a developing state to a developed one just to aid this experiment. We've also changed the economic factor to 20 out of 20, which should help with the money as well, and the FA financial power to 20 out of 20. For now, I have left the years to gain nationality as 5 because that is what it's set to in real life. But we may change this in the future if, for example, the South African League becomes one of the best leagues in the world. It starts to import loads of players. We might want to get some of these players playing for the national side, so we might change this in the future to just 1 year so they get nationality really quickly and then can play for the South African national side. Foreign manager likelihood, we've made that 20 out of 20 as well, just because obviously foreign managers are usually better managers, aren't they? You don't get good English managers, you don't get good South African managers, you always get really good Spanish, Italian, German managers. So that's kind of what we're hoping for with South Africa. We've also changed the youth rating of South Africa to 200 out of 200, the maximum it can be. So hopefully they'll be developing some fantastic regens as well, which should help us massively with this experiment. There are a couple more things that we've done as well. If we go to the add remove leagues button here, you can see that I've downloaded a few South African leagues as well. So I think in the base game, you've just got the South African Premier League and the First Division, but I've managed to add in the regional divisions in Division 2 region and Division 3 region. So there's 8 extra leagues here and I think 4 extra leagues here. So we've got loads more leagues, which should help develop and contribute to the player base of South Africa. And hopefully we'll get more and more better regens coming through because we've got so many teams available to us. So plenty of teams to help us out with this one. In addition to that, if we look at the South African Premier League, I've gone through every single team. So Kaizer Chiefs, for example, I've gone through every single one of them and I've changed the club details. I've gone to facilities and I've made everything 20 out of 20. Training, youth, junior coaching and youth recruitment, all 20 out of 20. The reason why? Well, of course, we want some better... The reason why? Well, of course, we want some fantastic regens coming through and we want them training in top-notch facilities to reach their potentials. I haven't just done that for the South African Premier League, though. I've also done it for every team in the National First Division. I thought about doing it for the regional leagues, but there are 8 leagues of 16 teams. And if I'm honest with you, I could not be asked to go through every single one of these regional second division sides and change their facilities. And then you've also got 4 leagues of 16 teams in the third division. So I couldn't be asked to go through all of those. I hope you forgive me. But that is everything that we've changed thus far. The world ranking currently is 74th, so hopefully we'll see an improvement in that. Maybe not in the first part of the experiment, but as we get further into the experiment, as some of these regens that come through start to grow and develop, we will see a massive boost in that world ranking. So if we look at the national team very quickly, you can see that I've got a bit of a custom view here because I've got the in-game editor. I can see current and potential ability. The potential ability of the best players in the national side are 150 right now, which is like a decent level Premier League player. So it's not bad. It's not bad. But if you want to have the best team in the world, you've got to have everyone pretty much over 150 potential ability. Under 23 squad, there's a few 150 potential players there. Under 20s, 149 is the best. And under 19 squad, 130s, 120s are your best players. So hopefully we'll see a big increase to that in the first part of this experiment. We're going to come back and revisit things at 4-year integers. So we're going to come back at the end of every single World Cup to see how South Africa's performed in that World Cup cycle. So the first date we're actually going to travel to is the 1st of January 2023. So if we go to 2023 and go to January, and we'll just click there, set to go on holiday. Essentially, the World Cup in Qatar in 2022 is held November, December, because of course it's got to be in winter because it's being played in the middle of a desert. So the World Cup's at a different time of the year, which means we're going to come back on 1st of January 2023 to have a look and see exactly what's happened to the South African national side. So I'm going to go and do that. Let me know in the comment section how quickly you think we'll be able to get South Africa to number 1 in the world, if we actually can get them to number 1 in the world, and I'll join you in just a second. And so just like that, we're back. We're back at the very end of January 2023. It's been a good few years, and hopefully we're going to see some good regens coming through the South African system. So, world ranking has improved. We've gone up to 66th in world ranking, so a bit of a slow start, but we did expect that because it takes a long time for the regens to actually come through and be good enough to play in the national side. So that's pretty decent. Up to 66th already. I'm pretty happy with that progress. As you can see, we did reach the height of 64th at some point in, what's this, it's a bit of a September 2019 to Jan 2023. That seems like a bit of a weird scale there, so I'm not quite sure when we got to 64th in the world, but we were at some point 64th in the world. Let's have a quick look at the schedule then. Going back to 2019, a very mixed year with some very strange results. A 3-0 loss to Brazil, but a 2-1 win over Angola in the African Nations qualifying. That's pretty exciting. 2020, lots of African nations qualifying. We didn't actually lose a game in 2020, which is fantastic. Potentially, this is when they got to 64th in the world rankings, so they didn't lose a single game in this calendar year. Also winning some World Cup qualification games as well, which is great to see. Big 2-0 win over Finland as well. 2021 then, African Cup of Nations year. They get through to the second round but lose on penalties to Ghana, so nothing spectacular in the African Cup of Nations there. 1 win, 1 loss, 1 draw in the group stage, just saw them through, which was good enough obviously. World Cup qualifying looks like it's gone okay-ish. They've lost a couple games I think actually, so maybe they haven't quite got through to the World Cup, the 2022 World Cup, but hopefully they have done. As we move into 2022 though, they didn't reach the World Cup, unfortunately. I think it is quite hard for African teams to get into the World Cup because the qualification system doesn't really favour African sides getting to the World Cup, which is a bit of a shame. But African nation qualifying has gone very well, winning 4 games, drawing 1 and losing 1 to Cameroon. So hopefully we'll see them in the 2023 African Cup of Nations. It looks like they have qualified because the fixtures are there, but they're just unknown right now. So it looks like they have qualified for it at least, which is great. So not a bad start in terms of results and fixtures. I think we should be pretty pleased with that. If we have a look at the national team though, this is where we need to start getting excited. So in this senior squad, whoa, okay then, we've got some good players coming through. The best player is a goalkeeper with 176 potential, currently playing for Cape Town City. Brian Gumede looks pretty decent, got some very good goalkeeping attributes there. Physicals are quite decent, but the mentals, I mean, flair for a goalkeeper, not that important. Off the ball is probably quite important for a goalkeeper actually, and leadership of one is, that's just a bit strange, isn't it, really? But he looks pretty decent for the most part. If he can reach that potential, he'll be a world-class goalkeeper. Came through the system at Yomo Cosmos, who are a 2nd division side. They're in the African Nation 1st Division, which is the 2nd tier of football. So we did actually make changes to their facilities, which is why they've been able to bring through such a good goalkeeper, but has recently just moved to Cape Town City on a free transfer. Also got a very good striker here in Simon, who's got 168 potential, currently playing for Orlando Pirates. Looked pretty decent. Finishing of 16 is very, very good. Mentals look pretty decent. Physicals for the most part are okay, but does need to improve in all areas to actually become a world-class player. But only 18 years old, so got a long time to do that. Looks like we've got some more 150 potential players, but these actually look older, so perhaps they were the 150 potential players that were already in the squad. Not too many young players breaking through just yet, which is kind of understandable because the regens are only 18, 19 years old at the most, so we're not going to see lots of them coming into the first team just yet. But if we look at the B team, no one in the B team, under 23 team, we've got an attacking midfielder with 187 worth of potential, which looks great. This guy looks very good in terms of his mentals, very good. His physicals look great as well. The technicals will improve as well with his age, so he looks like he might reach his potential, which is great to see. Currently, not at a club though, interestingly. He was let go or left his contract with Cape Amoya, so I'm not quite sure what went on there, but obviously looking for a new challenge. Got a good centre-back with 168 potential, another attacking midfielder, or is he a midfield centre? More of an attacking midfielder, actually, according to this, with 167 worth of potential, 161 potential here for this centre midfielder. So we've got some good young players coming through, as you can see. Potentially a bit of a golden generation with all these players over 150 potential in the under-23 side. Under-20 side, 169, 160. Very, very good to see. And the under-19 squad, 140 is the best one there. But great to see that we've already got some fantastic regens coming through. Give it another 4 years, we might actually see them do something pretty decent with those kids that will come through, and in 4 years' time, they'll be in their early 20s, which would be fantastic. So I think we've had a great start so far. I'm going to go and sim forward to the very end of the 2026 World Cup in North America, and hopefully we'll see some progress and South Africa qualifying for said World Cup. So another 4 years have passed, and we have seen... So another 4 years have passed, we're in 2026, and as you can see, South Africa boosted themselves up to 37th in world rankings, which is absolutely fantastic, I gotta say. A steady incline here, as you can see, which is great, so obviously steady progress, and hopefully some of these players are starting to get to the stage where they're getting towards their prime, which is fantastic. And hopefully we'll see the next generation of youngsters coming through who will look fantastic. First things first, though, let's have a look at the schedule. So we saw that they qualified for the 2023 African Cup of Nations. So moving into 2023, plenty of games played. African Cup of Nations is here. Beat Nigeria, drew to Ghana, beat Sudan, qualified for the second round where they won on penalties against Morocco, but lost in the quarterfinals 2-1 to Cameroon. Cameroon seem to knock them out of quite a lot of things at the moment, which isn't great, but good to see them qualifying all the way through to the quarterfinals. That's great progress to see. That's the first we've seen them get so far. Friendlies looked like they went pretty well for the most part, and then World Cup qualifying, a loss and a win against Equatorial Guinea. 2024 sees African Cup of Nations qualifying again. Looks like some decent results. World Cup qualifying again. Looks decent results. 2025 then, they qualified for the African Cup of Nations again, losing to Senegal, beating the Gambia, drawing with Congo, which got them to the second round with a 1-0 win over Nigeria, but then a 9-0 win over Guyana in the quarterfinals, into the semi-finals where they beat Congo, but lost to Senegal on penalties in the final. How agonising is that? But that is fantastic to see the South African side getting through to the final of the African Cup of Nations. It's just a shame to lose it on penalties. That's the worst way to lose it. But then, after a bit of a break after that, they think they've done pretty well in World Cup qualifying. So hopefully we'll see them in the 2026 World Cup, which they managed to reach fantastically. However, they lost to Germany in the group stages, beat South Korea. Of course, this is the World Cup where it's extended to, is it 46 teams or something like that? I'm not entirely sure, but only 3 teams in each group. So actually just winning one of your group stage games is good enough to get through to the later stages. But they did lose 3-0 to Russia in the World Cup second round. So whilst they have, dominated Africa almost by getting the final of the African Cup of Nations, European teams, other teams around the world in the World Cup, it's looking a little bit harder for them right now. So going back to this national side then, looking down here, no better player has actually broken into the first team who's better than Brian Gumidi. So he's the goalkeeper still playing for Porto right now, which is good to see. I put the clubs here as well to have a look at which clubs they are currently playing for. I want to see if they're playing domestically or around the world. We've got a good... playing everywhere, along the back, right back, left back, centre back. He looks very good. He's got very strong on either foot as well, which is fantastic. He looks like a cracking player, to be fair. He's currently playing out in Saudi Arabia, though, which is an interesting choice. But he, 22 years old, 169 worth of potential there. 168, 168, 166, 165. So we've got some good players starting all young, all 22, 21 years old. In fact, this entire national side, apart from a few players down here, are all 22 or 21 years old, which is a bit bizarre. But obviously that golden generation has come through and they all look very, very good. So hopefully in another 4 years' time, they'll all have reached their potentials and we will see South Africa getting even further in international competitions. Hopefully we'll have seen some other players come through who look very good. B team, no one. Under 23 team, no way. I've never, ever, ever seen this. But this player has got 200 potential. That's the max potential you can have. And I've never seen a player with 200 before. I've seen like 198s, 197s, but never a 200. That is ridiculous. This guy is A left winger by trade, 18 years old, already got 147 worth of current ability. Why is he not in the first team? I'm not entirely sure. But 200's worth of potential, that is mental. I've never seen that before. We've also got a defender with 182 worth of potential. We've got another midfielder with 167, a striker or a midfielder with 160. So good players coming through again. So obviously more players coming through that first team. But this guy is wanted by, I assume, every club in the world. Yeah, every Premier League club wants him. That's mental. That is crazy. I've never ever seen 200 potential before in my life. So that is a first for the TomFM channel, a 200 potential player. Mental. Under 20 squad, 170 is the best for a player there who currently plays for Super Sport City, and 140s and stuff like that below. Under 19 squad, 140s and below there. So maybe not in this next bunch of players, maybe not quite as good as the ones we had right at the start, but still some very good ones coming through. Now, for the want of a better phrase, I'm looking for the ones that got away. I want to find some players that have got South African nationality as their second nationality, but they've chosen to play for other countries, because understandably, there are going to be some players brought through by the South African clubs in their systems who will play for other countries because they have dual nationality. So we've gone onto the player search here, and we've just added this clause in here that says second nationality is South African. Click OK, and you can see that actually there are some very decent players with some very high potentials that aren't in the national setup right now. So Emre Setin, who plays for Hamburg right now, he is a regen. He started off in South Africa and recently moved to Hamburg for not much money at all, and has chosen to play for Germany, although he's only got under 21 caps. So I think potentially he could go and play for South Africa if he doesn't break into the German national squad. But with 170 worth of potential, he probably will play for Germany if that's the country he has chosen. We've got a guy who is Mozambique, who plays for Kaizer Chiefs with 167 worth of potential, 158. 158, 156. So we've got some very good players who could do a job in the South African national side. Like these 6 players here, they could all be first team starters in a few seasons' time for the South African national side because they've got such high potentials, but have chosen to play for other countries instead. So this is always something worth keeping an eye on. We'll do this in later episodes as well, but it's something to keep tabs on. So we're going to call it there for today's episode, I reckon. We'll have another one coming out later on this week, a part 2, and probably a part 3, 4, maybe even 5 later down the line as well. Each episode will go further and further into the future, and hopefully we'll see South Africa become #1 in the world, which would be mental. So thank you ever so much for watching today's video. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you think I've missed anything, let me know down in the comment section, and then we'll try and get on in the future episodes. Until then, though, make sure you do drop a like on the video, subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll see you next time. Have a great evening. Goodbye.